Before we start the pod this week, I just want to give a mention to the Motor Neurone Disease Association. The Motor Neurone Disease Association are a selected charity for this season. We're trying to raise £3,000 for them. If you just donate £10, that can help fund an information pack for someone who's just been recently diagnosed with MND. But £750 of your donations is actually funding an expert researcher for a week, and that can help us bring us closer to finding a cure to a terrible disease. We're very, very close to hitting our target. So if you could just donate what you can, that would be absolutely amazing. But for right now, we're going to talk about the win against Wigan, the draw against Huddersfield, predictions for Preston, and answer your podcast questions. This is the Boro Breakdown podcast, and this is our Boro Matchday Chatter in a pod.
Wants support. Curtis Fleming is there on the edge of the area. Fleming for Craig Hignett. Hit it, Higgy. Higgy hits the treble!
Ravanelli coming alive again. Janino wants the ball played to him. Ravanelli spots out Emerson!
Hello and welcome to the Boro Breakdown podcast with Johnny, Dana and Tom. We are the Boro podcast that gives you all of your Boro Matchday Chatter in a podcast. Well, and a win and a draw this week for Boro. 2 unbeaten if you want to play it that way. Boro 21st in the championship table, just above the relegation places. And this podcast is going to be a show specific on those games, and we'll come and give you guys a video and a podcast on Boro's new manager, which is expected to be, I don't know, maybe this week, maybe the week after, who knows. It is Boro, and we'll do an opposition show this week as well against Preston. But guys, I want to know how you're feeling at the moment about the win and the draw this week. Dana, how are you feeling about Boro in 3 words?
Following on from last week in the mood of apathy, I have to say majorly checked out. I just wish that the manager would come in like right now. I mean, maybe not mid-pod because it would probably skew all of our plans. But I think I need something to believe in again. I need something to latch on to and attach myself to, because I'm feeling a bit detached at the moment. And it really is just apathy. Even though we won on Wednesday, 4-1, fantastic. I kind of just felt a bit meh. And I still kind of feel a bit meh, to be honest. So, yeah, the new manager coming in can't come quick enough for me. Majorly checked out, my 3 words.
Okay. Tom, are you checked out or checked in?
No, still, I'm similar, fairly checked out. I mean, my 3 words were up and down. But midweek, that game against Wigan, I've got to say, like, watching that, it's not exactly as if, it's the standard way I watch a football match where I'm like on the edge of the seat and kicking every ball and stuff like that. I was actually just laid on my sofa watching it. It was quite a chilled night, and then just fairly relaxed celebration every time we scored. But it was a good win. Felt a little bit better after that, and then it just felt massively tired after yesterday's game. It wasn't one for the neutrals at all. It was.
Wasn't one for the fans of either side either, to be fair.
Just wasn't one for humans.
Well, if it wasn't for humans, who was it going to be for? It could be robots, it could be animals, or it could be...
Yeah, I feel like robots would love that game.
Yeah. Could be Dykesteel's son. It could be anything. But yeah, my 3 words would be, please believe Boro. I feel like we're a team that is very short of confidence, and I think both games proved it, to be honest. I know the first game against Wigan, we really grew in the game. You could kind of see the confidence come back, and then yesterday was very safe, slow, not willing to take a risk, and you kind of see that coming. You can hear it in the crowd as well, and we'll come to that in just a moment. But let's talk about Wigan then, because Boro went to the DW and got the first away win of the season. Jones, Watmore, Hackney and Akpom give Boro the win because of their lovely, lovely goals. Dana, how would you assess the performance against Wigan?
It was a strange game because I thought that 4-1 flattered us, to be honest. We scored through individual errors from defenders like Jack Watmore, Dariqua, and then the goalkeeper Ben Amos for the final 2. The first half was what we've seen from Boro this season: slow, pedestrian, playing in front of the opposition. And we were set up with 2 6s in Crooks and Howson. And a lot of the time what we saw was they would drop deep into the defensive line and it would offer a lateral pass, but not a forward pass. There weren't any third man runners to penetrate that Wigan backline or play through the thirds. And it was very predictable what we were doing. Yes, we had a lot of possession, but there just wasn't a lot to go with it. There was no incisive play, to be honest. And yes, we got that equaliser, and that equaliser, to be honest, boosted that performance up from poor to bang average, but we still weren't great. And then in the second half, we switched Hackney with Crooks, put Crooks into that more advanced sort of number 10 position. I think that helped because it pushed Boro up a few yards and pushed Wigan back a few yards because Crooks was getting into the box a lot more. And yeah, I think, to be honest, what summed up Wigan was probably Jack Watmore, because I thought before he made that mistake for the equaliser just before half-time, he was good. I thought defensively he was solid, and then he just completely collapsed in his performance after that. He got megged for the second goal from Watmore, Duncan Watmore that was, and it kind of, their performance collapsed after that. So you have to say, you have to point out that a lot of our goals, in fact, all 4 of our goals came about because of mistakes. But then on the flip side, you could say that it was great anticipation from Duncan Watmore, to be able to seize upon those opportunities. So you could say we created our own luck, but we did get a huge slice of it thanks to Wigan. So I was never getting too carried away because of that performance, because of that result. But still, it was good that we won that game because, a long time coming.
It was indeed, and what more could you want? There's 2 of them on the pitch, and it was very, very confusing when I think the commentator at one point said Watmore's taken on Watmore, and I was just like, oh my god, there's like Spider-Man meme, like I was pointing at each other. But Tom, although Boro did get a big slice of luck, with the mistakes, how big of a win was it for Boro? Because the first one on the road, finally.
To be honest, I think it just ended up in the short term being a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be. As Dana was saying there, like we really kind of grew into the game as it went on, and we got the 4 goals, a massive win away from home, and you just thought, right, this might be something we can kick on from. We got Huddersfield on Saturday, who were doing absolutely dreadful at the moment. We should be able to kind of kick on from there. And then I'd say we were positive for about the first 20-25 minutes against Huddersfield, and then it just kind of flattened out. And it just felt like, not that it undid everything on Wednesday, because it was still an important 3 points, but I don't know, in terms of confidence and that kind of attack and drive, it was just kind of like, all right, back to normal now. But I mean, in terms of getting away, when it should be better in terms of like getting more confidence for the players from that win. We got 4 goals, which we haven't done all season. So it should have been bigger than it was. And hopefully it will be kind of longer term. Hopefully, we'll go to Preston next week and turn them over 1-0 or, well, it's going to be 1-0 in there because they don't concede and they don't score. But yeah, hopefully it can do wonders for us on the roads, but it just didn't do anything in the short term.
What you were saying there, Tom, actually, is probably why I didn't get so, I don't know, overconfident about Boro after the game against Wigan, why I didn't get too high after that result, because there's just a certain acceptance that we will take that step back. And although it wasn't a defeat yesterday against Huddersfield, I almost forgot who we were playing there. That's how zoned out I was in that game. But it kind of just felt like this is just Boro now. This is just what Boro are. They're an inconsistent side, and this is what we've got to get used to, because it's gonna continue to happen.
The only thing that is the only thing is consistent is our inconsistency.
Very much so.
Yeah, and look, I think when we chat about like the win against Wigan, I actually thought at the time, I thought it was a massive win for us, to be honest. I thought, finally, we've got we've got off our back now, and we can hopefully just kick on a little bit more. And I thought Boro really grew into the game against Wigan. When I was watching it and we went behind with a set piece, and we'll come on that in a second, but I thought, oh God, here we go again. Like, I'm falling out of love with football again. I can't watch this anymore. And then the one big moment in the game was that Boro's equaliser. It was a big slip. It was a big error. And I think Boro capitalised on it. And it was the first time that we've really had a big error go in our favour. And actually, we've went on to score. And then we were like, wow, we can actually do this. Then the second goal was another error, really. And then we've done it again. And I felt like that was just like, Boro finally coming back. This is the team I remember, we were on the front foot, good in possession. I think, although you were saying that then, like laterally to at times, like when they were dropping in, but it felt like we were taking more of a risk with the play in the last 25 minutes, and we were willing to get forward, we were willing to press harder, we were willing to get the extra run and win the second ball. And I thought, this team just needs a bit of confidence or an arm around them or something, because once it does go our way, we can prove that we're a good side. But when it doesn't go our way, we just become a shell, and it's very, very difficult to really kick on from that. Because for me now, I think it's just more of a psychological issue rather than an actual physical issue, because you could see in the touches yesterday, you could see in the touches in the first half against Wigan, things were very flat, very poor, and also they just didn't want to really progress. And it comes from mistakes. And another mistake again, Tom, it was another set piece. Boro actually joint third for set pieces conceded, but there's another 5 teams that have conceded 6 set pieces this season. Only Bristol City have conceded 10, by the way, 10 set pieces.
Jesus.
So and Hull have got 7, just above us, but then Boro are third with that. But is it a concern, Tom, that we are leaking goals from set pieces in these moments, and it's happening time and time again?
I think it is, yeah. I'm glad we didn't concede any against Huddersfield, because that going off the opposition show last week, Brady told us that was one of their strengths, which it's one of our weaknesses. So I was fully expecting them to exploit that at the Riversides, but their tactic of trying to score directly from the corners didn't end up working, which was a bit of a relief, because it did look dangerous at times, but. It is a bit of a concern that it keeps happening. So hopefully, when the new head coach comes in, that is something that they can kind of rectify. Because the players we have, in defence, and some of the the height we have in the team, whether it's strikers or midfielders, we shouldn't be getting beat on set pieces as much as we are.
Yeah, we shouldn't, and it feels like there's a pattern slowly coming in with Boro set piece, because I feel like I think we said on the last podcast, I think Danny, you mentioned it, that Boro are very keen to run at the front post, especially on set pieces, and I feel like we anticipate that the first post that's going to be hitting, maybe because, like you're saying, maybe because we never hit the front man, but first man, but it's but I think secondly, like I think it's a case of Boro I think they're trying to mix a mixture of man marking and also zonal at the same time. I feel like you got to pick one or the other, I think, sometimes, because I don't think we're good enough to do zonal, but I think man marking might help us. But then it comes to accountability, and can we do it? How many times have we seen McNair or someone lose the man and they get the chance? And I think it's just a lot of things that we need to work on, especially for the new head coach to come in and do that as well. But I want to talk about Hayden Hackney for a second, Dana, because he came into the sides when Leo's taken over, and he scored his first goal. It was a great goal, to be fair. And yes, he does get a bit of luck, but it's hit the back of the net. It's a joyous moment for anyone, especially someone who's from Teesside to score your first Boro goal. But how do you think he's adapted to Championship football? Because he seems to have grown in his performances.
Yeah, I think the best thing with Hackney is he doesn't look out of place in it. And I mentioned, what was it, last podcast, that I'm not getting overexcited about him. You can do that a lot of the time with a young player, especially a young player from the academy. But then that was also me saying that he's not been bad. I'm not criticizing him. I just feel like he's been all right. But I think there's definitely praise to be in the fact that I don't think he's looked out of place. He is a ball carrier, and that's something that we don't have in this team. So in terms of skill set, you're looking at probably him and Riley McGree, who I'm really frustrated with Riley McGree, because I think he can offer a lot more than what he's doing. But I think we'll probably speak about him a little bit later on, maybe, or in a different podcast. But yeah, I mean, Hackney is somebody that I do want to see more of. It was a shame to see him dropped yesterday, because what's Alex Mowatt done in this team to get back into it? I don't know, maybe it was tactical because they had Jack Radoni, who I think is a good player, another player with a good skill set, a creative ball carrier, somebody that has worked his way up from Wimbledon. Maybe it was just a case of marshalling a little bit better defensively, but yeah, when he came on, he had a good few moments where he was trying to get past players, and unfortunately, he was running into brick walls, which I think is testament to the setup that Huddersfield had. But I do want to see more of Hayden Hackney. I think, as I said, between him and Riley McGree, those two could give a little bit extra, that 1% difference of maybe improvement in midfield.
Talk to me about Riley McGree, Dan, and why do you think why is he frustrating you at the moment?
Because I think you talk about skill set there. I think Riley McGree, and we saw it last season, particularly there was that ball for Aaron Connolly's chance against Swansea last season where he hit the post and we're all thinking, my God, Connolly, you are shocking. That was a fantastic ball from Riley McGree and something that he is capable of. He can, those little delicate dinks over the top, the reverse passes, the passes that break the lines. He's capable of that. He's been a victim of his positioning this season because playing him as a number 10 just didn't work. I know why we were trying to do it, because in pre-season we didn't have a lot of striker options, so we had to compensate for that by bringing in a number 10 in the formation with a 3-5-1-1 rather than a 3-5-2. Doesn't suit him. He's somebody that I think can carry the ball, can dribble with it, and when you dribble with it, it's not rocket science. You attract other players to you and it opens up space elsewhere. I think that's what Riley McGree can do, but he hasn't really played consistently in a number 8 position. I want to see him deeper. I don't want to see him as a number 10. I wish we would scrap the experiment of a set and specialized number 10. You could maybe get away with 2 number 10s, but definitely not 1, and definitely not Riley McGree as the 1. I want to see him deeper because I do think he can affect the game a lot more there. But I think I said on tease after the Millwall game, he's a bit of a myth at the moment, unfortunately, and he needs to step up. I do think he can, because I do think he's a good player and he was good at Birmingham. I don't think we've helped him out in terms of positioning.
I think when you watch him, he's definitely like a half space type player, isn't he? Like,
Yeah.
he wants to be a bit more half space centrally, and then also when you watch him as well, I think it's like kind of like a quarter. He plays in a bit of a quarter of a pitch, doesn't he? Like between probably the box and the centre circle, really. And you think, right, you're going to be really key in these moments, but you just need to. It's either two things. I think you either have more restriction on him and make him play in certain moments in games, or you just let him off the leash and say, right, free roam, do what you need to do, come in and out when you need to. And to be honest, I don't know. I think that you've said it is a bit of a myth, but I can't see either how you get the best out of him at the moment. But he was like, you are right. He has a really good skill set, and I think he is a very good player. I think it's just a case of, could it be confidence? Could it be the mullet he's trying to grow? Or could it be just a case of we just need to get a position for him? But like, it could be. Do you know how? Maybe a comparison, but remember Nicky Bailey like many moons ago? But he came in as a number 10, right? Gordon Strachan played him left wing for the first game, which I could not believe. But we played him in more like obviously deep lying playmaker under Mowbray. Really, he was kind of that setup where you would get Boro forward, and maybe if you play a double pivot, that might help him a bit more, because then you're able to like, say who goes and who doesn't. And even Max agrees as well, because his bell of his the bell of his collar starts to ring there. So if Max agrees, we all agree. But Tom, I think we talk about formation change as well, and we talk about double pivots, or if we want to move into a 4-2-3-1 system, which Carrick could do if he was to come in and change that system. But Boro did play 4 at the back, and they have played 4 at the back against Wigan. We see it in the game prior to that, and then also against Huddersfield. Have you seen anything in terms of the changes of play as we've moved into this formation?
I think weirdly we look more solid with it, with Fry and Lenihan as the centre backs rather than having a back three. I can't quite put my finger on why, but I have noticed that both Fry and Lenihan are taking the kind of more old-fashioned centre back, if in doubt, hoovered out type thing. Like if it's going down either channel, they're moving over to cover the full backs quite well, and then often putting it out for throw-ins. which seems to be working better. I'm not fully convinced on playing a back four with Giles at left back. Personally, I think if we were going to play a back four, I'd rather Bowler was there and Giles was a bit further up. Because, as was mentioned earlier, he is probably our most attacking threat. So having Jones played further up on the right and having him at left back, it does seem to nullify him a lot more. So I'd personally play him further up and play Bowler in that back four if we keep going with it. But I've seen enough from the back four now to think defensively for some reason it's working better than a five. So happy to stick with it from here on out. I'm not saying kind of rip up everything we've done for the last couple of years or anything like that, because I think it still has to be a certain style of play. So I think when the new head coach comes in, if that is Carrick, it still needs to play a certain way. But that back four is now looking more and more of an option, which I think even under Warnock and Woodgate, it was always looking better as a five. So like I said, for some reason, something's changed now, and a four is looking the better option.
I think tactical flexibility, like in game, is like becoming more and more common as we see it now. And I think the way Boro can transition to different formations should be something that they maybe need to start doing a little bit more. I think we're very stuck positionally, and I think it makes us become very static. Where you see better teams, they are fluid in the ball and transition, and where I don't think we do that. When you say with the four as well, we look like we have more of a solid base on that, but I do think a three is probably more viable for us, just the way I think with the players that we have. But also, I've noticed that we're very lopsided on the right hand side now that we've put Jones further up and Giles further back. And yeah, I think you're spot on there, Tom. I think if Bowler was to come in, put him in left back, put Giles as a winger, because I think to have your most creative player now in a more defensive position, I think that made things really difficult yesterday, and we couldn't break down Huddersfield because of it. And we'll come to that in just a moment. But Dan, have you seen anything as well with the back four? Is there anything that you can see that Boro can potentially improve on?
The back four, not really, but as a package, the 4-3-3, we are going to get stuck. Let's not forget the first half against Wigan. Yes, the second half was completely different because we scored 3. But the first half, as I said, we just didn't have the penetration. We didn't have the movement. And I think any formation can work if you have the right players to suit it. And for me, I think we have a team, and we've certainly built a team in the summer that suits a 3 at the back. But that midfield with both of the formations, and probably any formation, is a big, big problem. The lack of movement off the ball is crippling us, to be honest. And it reminds me of the latter days under Neil Warnock, where I remember watching us against Reading and there was nothing in midfield. We might as well have not had any options there. And that, to be honest, I said about Hayden Hackney and Riley McGree there, I think that January can't come soon enough for Boro because we need somebody else in. I think internally, there's only so long that we can wait for Riley McGree to enter the party, to be honest. And Hayden Hackney, he's a great potential. He's got great potential, but the fact that he's getting in the team instead of the likes of Moore and McGree, and then coming on for Moore yesterday, is a damning indictment of those two players. So the midfield is a big problem, no matter what formation we play, because I just don't think that the options that we have right now are performing anywhere near good enough. And yeah, I can't wait for the January transfer window so that we can sort that out.
Tom, who's your you said the back four there? We're looking more steady with the base. Who would be your back two centre backs if when Clark does come back?
Still at the moment, Fry and Lenihan. I think they're working quite well together, and I quite like as well the experience of Smith on the right hand side. Bearing in mind he is still an attacking fullback and can overlap and help Jones and stuff like that. He just seems a little bit better defensively than Jones is. As I mentioned earlier, Bowler would do the same thing on the left hand side, but I think even though Clark's a left footer, Fry and Lenihan are working well together. And obviously we heard on the voice notes from Derby and West Brom fans when we signed Clark, he is better in a free. as Dana mentioned there, we are set up as a team to play a free. So, if he does come back and we need to kind of pivot back to that, I think he slots in next to Fry and Lenihan. But if we carry on with the 4, I don't think Fry or Lenihan have done anything to get dropped for Clark at the moment.
Okay, then. Well, do you want to chat about Huddersfield?
No, do we
Not
have
particularly.
to?
Well, look, Huddersfield came to town sitting in 24th position, and it's the first time we've drawn against Huddersfield since the 22nd of October 2019. So how spooky was that? 'Cause only one day in it. But Tom, you said at the start of the show that you were very tired watching it. So we had 60% possession, 2 shots on target. But how would you assess it?
Boring, tiring. It was though, like I thought the first 20-25 minutes we did look positive. It looked like we carried straight on from the Wigan game. We were trying to get at them, and it only looked like one team was going to score at that point. But what was really frustrating about that game yesterday, I thought, was the fact that you could tell Huddersfield would be absolutely buzzing with a point and a clean sheet, because every time we got the ball, they had 10 men behind it. And it reminds me a lot of those games kind of under Karanka, where we'd have a team come in just trying to get a point, and we'd have to trying to break them down. MK Dons at home that promotion season is the kind of example that always sticks in my mind for that, because it took us till the 75th minute to break them down. I think it was Sherry Downing that scored, and then they had to actually try to attack, and then we got another one. And I feel like it would have been the same case yesterday. I can only really remember 3 chances from Huddersfield, not counting the times they tried to score directly from the corners. And one of them was, Steffen fumbling it back out to them and then made another excellent save on the double, which he shouldn't have had to make, but I'm glad he did. Other than that, they didn't really offer a lot, and it just seemed like it was the same thing every time we went forward. Pass it from side to side, try and create an angle for a cross. Cross gets cut out. The whole process starts again. It's just one of those games. It's never a fun one to watch. Not one for the neutrals, not one for the fans, or anything like that. All the robots. So yeah, it was just extremely boring game to watch yesterday.
Is it a concern, Tom, that we couldn't break them down?
Yeah, to me it is. I think if you're going to be a possession-based team, you need to know how to use the ball well in that situation. And what just comparing it back to that MK Dons game again for a second, what we did well with the ball at that time was make the opponent kind of chase the ball and tire them out. So it gets to a point around 70 minutes in where they're flagging and we've used the ball quite well, so we have energy to spare. And it doesn't look like we have that kind of same level of tactical intelligence with the ball at the moment. It's just, like I said, the same thing every time when we go forwards, and there were more opportunities in that game for Huddersfield to hit us on the counter-attack. Just I thought we cut it out quite well with a high line at times. But yeah, you need, if you're that type of team, you need to be able to preserve your energy, be patient, and kind of hit them in the right moments. And it's not something we're good at doing at the moment.
So on that as well, Dana, why do you think I'm going to ask you why we didn't break Huddersfield down. Tom thinks it's more of a concern, and we didn't use possession well enough. But why do you think that we weren't able to break Huddersfield Town down either?
I think a lot of it probably filters into bad decision making, because we had a few opportunities to get the ball in the box and we just didn't. But having said that, I did notice in the first half we counter-attacked, and I looked at the midfield trying to get forward, and I wouldn't even say they were trying, to be honest. I mean, you had Alex Mott there towing an Eddie Stobbart, and then in the second half it happens again where they're so slow and pedestrian getting into the box. And one of the things that we identified and acknowledged under Wilder was how many players we were getting when we were into the final third, how many players we were getting into the box. And I looked yesterday, there was like one or two. They weren't, breaking their necks to try to get in there and try to seize upon the possession that we had. And maybe that was just because they knew that what the plan was to recycle possession, because it did kind of feel like the latter part of the Wilder era, or to be honest, the Wilder era in general, where we were recycling possession and we only really kind of took that risk when that risk was, talk about percentages, more likely to land in a chance for Boro. So bad decision making, I think, was the big part of it, because yes, Huddersfield set up well, but I don't think they set up perfectly that we couldn't break them down. It was just ourselves shooting ourselves in the foot by the way of not gambling, not taking chances, and not quickening the tempo when it needed to be. I agree with what Tom said about the first 20 minutes. It looked like we were on it. Their left wing back was getting toasted by Zack Jones and Paddy McNair. There were some really good combinations on that right hand side. And then I think they got a corner and the momentum swung completely. And we never, ever put our foot back on the pedal after that, unfortunately. And bad decision making for me. Pass selection was off. There were so many times where Tommy Smith could have got it into the box. He just decided to pass it back to Jones. And then his crossing is incredibly poor anyway. But yeah, it was mind-numbingly boring and dull. And I'm still kind of zoning out thinking about that game, because it was awful. It was really, really bad.
Yeah, I was going to say, if a moment to describe the game was at kickoff, where we kicked it to Alex Morton, he sliced out for a throw. That was probably the definition of that game. But there was a couple of things which Boro did yesterday, which was really frustrating, and it was kind of saying around possession. And when you do have possession, you want to play with possession with intent. So you're always looking to try and, either it's laterally or vertically, you are trying to get the ball forward and hit it with tempo, because that's how you stretch games. Because when you are attacking, it's all about expanding the pitch, isn't it? You're trying to stretch this low block at which Huddersfield came into, and you're trying to pull them out of position and get your bodies forward. And you can do that, what you're saying there, Dana. You can do that by bringing your midfield forward, or you can try and get 2v1s out wide and then try to get people in the box through that way. But what was one big thing yesterday, which really was frustrating, was when Huddersfield did go forward and when they did try and get the ball, cross the ball in, Steffen was able to catch it. But then once he caught it, Steffen, and credit to him as well, had the ball and he was quick to release it. Distribution was really good. With that, Boro got the ball forward. It was straight to Jones, and then Jones would look at it, and then pass to Smith, and then Smith would pass to Fry. And then by the time we did that, Huddersfield were back in the shape, and you've got to start all over again. So then the possession side of things becomes really difficult, because when someone's back in that low block, it's really difficult to break down at times, and especially when you don't have the quality in terms of, or not quality is probably not the right word, but confidence to really get forward and trying to make something happen. That's how you break these teams down. And there is quality in this team, and you can see it at times. But for me, I think the lack it significantly at the moment, and it's very noticeable. And I feel like the fans can sense that frustration as well. And for me, I want to ask you the question: like, are Boro lacking in confidence? Because in 21st in the table, results haven't really gone the way so far this season. It surely must be playing on the Boro's mind, Tom, that we're not doing as well as we should be this season.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And, I feel like Wilder probably has to take a fair amount of the blame for that as well, from what he was doing when he was here. But he's not here anymore now. The players need to turn it around themselves, because we keep saying it, but we know they're good enough. Like, we've seen them do it. On paper, we've improved on what we had last season. So there's no reason why they can't be playing the same way they were last season. It's going to take someone to kind of step up and motivate them, whether that's coming from within, and it's Lenihan or Howson or someone to kind of really drive that that motivation for them, or whether or not that's going to be a new head coach coming in, which I think it should be that is their job to do. But if the likes of Carrick comes in with a new coaching team, as I said last week, this is going to be the first kind of big job for them to do is fire the team up and get them confident again.
Yeah, I think like with that as well, like with the confidence side of things, it's just a case of it's probably more than just like it's more than just probably armor on the shoulder job as well. It's kind of instilling that from day one as well, isn't it? It is a case
Yeah.
of trying to right, okay, we are in this position. Can we try and get this first win back? Can we try and get this first point back? Can we try and get this? I don't know, win the second ball. It's like little key moments in games, isn't it, where you try and think, how can we build this performance up even more and try and get us playing again? Because I don't think we are doing that at times. I think it's just a case of, okay, yeah, we've got the ball. The fans aren't really saying anything, but let's just play it safe anyway, and let's just hope for the best. And yes, that is probably one of the first things that our manager needs to do is to kind of say, create an environment where it's probably you're willing to try and take a risk because they're not doing it at the moment. But then secondly, it's like trying to instill like, let's just keep trying to do it. And if you get punished for it, you get punished for it, but keep trying to do it. But like the difference between success and failure in football is so marginal, isn't it? And it must be built on them. But then Dana as well, like I want to talk to you about a player who looks bang out of it at the moment in Paddy McNair. And we had a question from Daniel as well, and he said, what has happened to Paddy McNair? And a lot of fans as well are questioning him at the moment. He just seems to be a player that is just a shell of himself at the moment. I think if you look on average, like he's played a game a week. If you look at a calendar year, I think he's played over like 50 something games, I think, in a calendar year.
Thanks for nabbing my point there, Johnny. I was just about to mention that.
Well, hey, it's a lot in my notes, Dana. I will just like to say my point. No, joking. But obviously, well, what do you think, Paddy McNair? What's going on?
Yeah, no, it's good that you mention it because I think from a human level, I wouldn't be surprised if he's just burnt out mentally and physically. He played 61 games in 2019-20, and I know that obviously there was a COVID break there, but it's not really the respite that you normally see after a season because it breaks up the routine. You suddenly having to train in your own homes because you can't go out because of the I was going to say the plague there, the pandemic. I mean, am I wrong? It was a plague. Oh, it is a plague. And then you're having to go back into the season. And I remember when Ian Barclough just kept playing him consistently, starting him for Northern Ireland after he started it felt like about 10 games in a week for us prior to the international break. And then he's played 56 games the season after that as well. So that is an awful lot of games. I mean, 61 games in a season is incredible for a championship player. I know obviously the season is much more in terms of fixtures than the Premier League, but that is a crazy amount of games. And people will say, yeah, well, they get played to play football, but they're not robots, they're not machines, they're not mechanical beings, they're people at the end of the day. And I think, our friend Luke, Watford Luke, put up a few stats and whatnot about Dele Alli playing the X amount of games before the age of 21. Obviously, that's different in terms of its narrative, but I guess the theme of that is that there is a drop-off in performances because of burnout. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Paddy McNair is that. I don't believe for a second that he's suddenly become a bad player because of natural career progression. I genuinely feel like the guy's just burnt out. And the fitness guys all know at Middlesbrough whether or not that's the case, but you can't account for the mental fatigue as well. So yeah, I think the guy's just fatigued.
I think it's compounded as well. I don't think it's just last season or like the games that you mentioned there. I think if you're looking back, I think a couple of seasons, I think he's played like 40. He played pretty much every game of 2 seasons prior, and then he played like 43. This is league games, so I'm not including like international or cup games. Where I think he played a significant amount the year after, and then he's played back on the end, which is like 50, 60 games. So I think it's a lot of football, but it's difficult, isn't it? I think how much of a break can you give him? Because obviously, I think the winter break this year for like the World Cup will probably benefit him to some extent. But then also, like, how can we try to manage that even more? But yeah, it is a lot of football. It is a lot of football. But then you can also, professional football needs to be fit, but also probably the demand each game. I don't think we realize like how much it can affect someone because you are running like 6 to 7 kilometers per game, really. And then you've got the added training on top of that, and the games that we don't know about. So we do play a lot of friendlies behind closed doors, and then also like training games, intensity. maybe it could be a fatigue issue, but it does seem that he just seem that he's pretty off at the moment. Definitely not the player that we'd seen a couple of seasons ago, but let's be a bit more positive and go to the praise and place, because the praise and place is the place. We like to give praise to a chips and gravy person, or a tattooist for you, Dana, a staff member at Boro, a player, or even Tom's Roma shirt from when Boro played them in the UEFA Cup. So who gets your nomination for the praise and place this week? Tom, you can go first with that lovely shirt.
Yeah, I mean, it's a match-worn Shabani Nonda shirt, which gets my nomination this week. Only ever been worn at the Olympic Stadium and goals on a Tuesday night, so something to brag about there. But no, I mean,
sacred
for
places
me,
there, sacred.
Yeah, two places equally sacred. Seriously though, for me with the Boro team, I think Hayden Hackney deserves a place in the present place this week. I think as Dana said earlier, not to kind of jump on the kind of hype train too quickly. He hasn't looked out of place. He's done all right, and very, very happy he got that goal on Wednesday night against Wigan. I think just the fact that he hasn't looked out of place for me is a big enough deal in itself. I watched him against Barnsley earlier in the season in the cup game. I believe he was playing the Johnny Howson role at that point though, and I was looking at him thinking he's still a while off the first team, especially if we won him in that role. But I think at that point there was a few kind of physical battles he wasn't even getting involved in that game, but you could tell there was something there in terms of his ball carrying and his passing, and then he's just brought all the positives from that into the first team now, and like I say, doesn't look out of place and deserves his place in there after the last few games. So well done to him. And also I would say Duncan Watmore. I think he's done really well this week. Look quite positive going forward, and he seems to have found another gear in playing. He's deserved the starts he's been getting, where I think a lot of people would say he's an impact sub, and I think in most cases I would have agreed, but at the moment he's doing it from the start, and that's all you can kind of really ask for from your strikers.
Okay, Dana, who are you going to go for?
I'd go for Watmore as well, because I know I said that all of our goals came about because of a huge slice of luck, but it's the anticipation from Watmore to be able to still make that run, even though he's probably thinking the defender's going to get to it. It's that endeavour and that just kind of taking a risk, taking a chance, and still trying to create something and get onto the ball. So I think definitely Duncan Watmore, and he started well on Saturday, as did all the team. I guess, but then they faded completely. But yeah, I have to praise Watmore, because I've said many times on this podcast that I think Watmore should probably be moved on now. So credit where it's due. I think he has been good, and to be honest, he's our most effective forward right now. So you have to give him credit for that. And then I'll probably throw Dale Fry in there, because yesterday was a game where Dale Fry just got his head on everything. And I mean, yeah, set pieces were the main threat, but defensively, I didn't think he put a foot wrong. The only thing with Fry that I would like to see is him becoming more of a threat from attacking the set pieces, and it's something that many managers have said throughout his Middlesbrough career. He's just, it's what he's missing, I think. And obviously, yeah, you can say, well, he's a defender, he defends, he does that well, but I'd just like to see a little bit more in terms of attacking those set pieces, getting his head on, crosses into the box and becoming more of a goal threat from those situations. But Watmore and Fry for me, and maybe Zack Steffen as well, because although there was that massive trampoline that was on his chest for one of those shots, he is building, and that is very good. And he went full Ted Lasso after the game by saying, kick some butt. So I'm going to put him in the praise place for that quote alone.
Yeah, I felt very motivated after I listened to Zack Steffen in the post-match interview, to be honest. I felt like he was going to sell me into a pyramid scheme, and I would have just done it anyway. Like afterwards. But I think praise and place, it should be called the Zack Steffen praise and place, just because he's just so positive about everything. So maybe we brand it as that. And Yeah, I think Watmore for me as well. I think Watmore probably deserves the praise and place nomination for the week. I think he's been really good this week and definitely been most effective player as well. So yeah, he deserves the place for me in the Zack Steffen praise and place. So let's move on to questions because each week you can send us questions via Twitter or email at theborobreakdown@hotmail.com or join our Telegram chat with over 300 Boro fans talking anything but Boro. And maybe sometimes a little bit of bore and a bit of frustration here and there. But the first question is from Ryan, and he says, Boro Breakdown, how have we gone from tactically outplaying Wigan to sitting deep against Huddersfield, looking goal shy and scared of the opposition? I think we kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier on, where we were saying about Boro probably struggling with confidence, lateral passes, like not really trying to get forward in that static play. I think it's kind of been the difference really, and obviously I think confidence is probably the most important part of football, or one of the most important things, and I just think we're lacking it at the moment, and hopefully we can rediscover that when a new manager comes in and we can get going again. But the next question is from Jonathan. He says, by going to a back four, are we losing two of our most effective players, creative players, in Giles and Jones? Giles looks far less of a threat left back in a four, and Jones can't cross well enough to be an out-and-out winger. Tom, we'll come back to that. What do you think?
I think we are playing the current lineup, but like I said earlier, I think if we were to play Giles further up, it does kind of alleviate that. I don't think we need Jones to cross, particularly because I think we all know that is not. Well, that's one of his weaknesses. I wasn't saying not his strength, but that doesn't even kind of do it justice. His strength is getting to the byline and playing a very kind of low cross across the face of goal for someone to tap in. So we need him doing that. And I think to be able to do that, we do need a very different threat on the other side, which I think Giles does offer. I think if you were going to play a 4-3-3, you'd need someone like Akpom or Muniz in the middle to be able to get onto those. Probably more Muniz because he is more physical, but you need the midfield getting involved as well, which, as Dana mentioned earlier, they're just not doing at the moment. But I don't think it's a problem with necessarily the back four making them less effective. I think it's just the current lineup. I think you put Bowler and you move Giles further up, and that nearly solves that problem. It just, if you got a game like yesterday where people are tripling up on Jones all the time, and his decision making wasn't the best yesterday, and that he kept kind of taking people on and losing it. Then you're not going to see the best out of Jones. But let's say if you kind of balance that out for both wings, I think it lessens the chance of that happening.
Okay, then the next question is from Stuart. He says, have things gotten so bad that Carrick coming in and finishing 7th to 10th would be a success? Dana Malt, let's let you take that one.
I think it would be a success anyway, to be honest, because Carrick is will be a new manager, and it'll be, well, yeah, I would say it's completely alien to him, because although he's had that coaching stint at Manchester United, it wasn't really one with longevity, and also it's a completely different kettle of fish to be in the hot seat at the helm at a football club. So I think it would be a success anyway to finish between 7th and 10th. But also the championship is so poor this season, and I think it was crap last year, I thought, but even more so this year, because I know everyone always says that anyone can beat anyone. It's the whole cliche around the championship, but I genuinely feel like even Huddersfield, rock bottom of the championship, could probably go on and do a Forest from last season. I think it's so open, and a run of like 2 or 3 good results could probably put you into the top 6 maybe. So I think it would be a success. But yeah, I completely understand the kind of, I guess, the subtext of what Stuart's saying there, how bad it's got. Yeah, it's been poor, hasn't it? And I was looking at the top of the championship, and I haven't really looked at the top of the championship all season because we haven't been able to, because Boro haven't been involved in it. And I'm looking at the teams and I'm thinking, okay, yeah, kind of usual suspects there, I suppose, in Norwich, Sheffield United, even Luton from last season. But yeah, we would do well to finish in the top half based on what we've seen. But having said that, this team, I still maintain the belief that this team will change and it will get better. We just need that external appointment to, Carrick to come in, and we'll see how we go. But as I said earlier, I think this is what Boro are now. Get used to it. Inconsistent. We'll have some good highs, some decent highs. We'll have some incredibly low lows, but we've just got to stick it out and hope that this is a project to be built on.
We're a tale of two boroughs. The next and final question is from Carl, and he says, "Is this year's forward line any better than Sporar, Balogun, and Connolly?" Give me a yes or no answer on this. Tom, what do you think?
I want to say yes, just because I feel like Connolly brings last year down so much. I think Sporar and Balogun were both decent. Unfortunately, Balogun's went on this season to probably been putting out even better product than he was for Boro last season. But I still think, you know, what we've got up front at the moment, and even with our development strikers, it is better than what we had last season. I think we just need to actually start using them, and you know, not playing strikers on the wing when they come on or from the start and stuff like that.
To be fair, Balogun would have suited yesterday because he's technically a left winger by trade and then likes to cut in. So that could have potentially worked. But I think Balogun's the only one I'd probably have back out of the three, I think. But
Same.
Anyway, Dana, what do you think? Is it better or worse?
I think it's better. Yeah, Connolly was shocking, wasn't he? Let's be honest. Connolly is one of those players where, you know, when people say don't judge a player until they've played for your club, Aaron Connolly is case in point that you absolutely can't judge a player before they played for your club, because my goodness, he was bad. I mean, he's not even the worst striker that I've seen play for Boro. That's how bad it is with us and strikers. But yeah, Sporar just fell off a cliff, didn't he? And Balogun, I think the right player at the wrong time, probably. But I mean, I like the strike force. It's just that we don't have that kind of established goal scorer necessarily. We've sort of jumped on these players before they've blossomed into that. But I do think we need somebody alongside that gives that nice blend between somebody that's more of an established goal scorer, not necessarily an experienced player per se, but somebody that may be coming off the back of a very good season in League One, for example, or even in the Championship like we saw with Emil Rees, alongside what we have now. But yeah, I think I like Chuba. I like the physicality of him and Muniz. Force, yeah, playing Force on the wing yesterday was just good grief. I wasn't a big fan of that. And then God knows, where is Matthew Hoppy? Has anyone seen him recently? Because I don't know where the guy's gone. But I think there's enough there in Muniz, Akpom and Force for it to be better than the three of last season. Not by much, but I still think it is better.
Okay, then. Yeah, and just on that
and Watmore as well. I forgot about Watmore there. Sorry, Watmore.
I was going to say, yeah, I think with that, I think Akpom needs a second person with him, because yesterday really did prove that with no one near him, he was so limited, and we were trying to play a long ball to Akpom, and he was never going to win that, like, ever. So it was pointless. We needed but the one time that we did get someone near him, we created a chance. But you know, enough said about that game on Saturday. But yeah, I would agree. It's probably better than last season. But let's look ahead to Preston then really quickly, because the lowest scorers and the joint best defence. Apparently, looking at the Preston fans are saying, is this team trying to bore us to death? So it's Preston 5-0.
Nice.
So it's easy. But we do have an opposition show coming out on Thursday, and Tom Green hosts it. So it's a very good show as well. So watch that on Thursday. But let's have some predictions then, because last year it was horrendous, but fans left the stadium still happy, even though they got thumped. Now, you know, we're in 21st position, and a bad result could be devastating. So let's hear your predictions then. Tom, what are you going to go for?
Well, I'm going next week, and I've been to 2 away games this season. They've both been 1-0 to the other team. That was Reading and Coventry, and I'd completely forgot about Emil Rees playing for Preston until Dana's just mentioned it there. So it'll probably be 1-0 Preston with Emil Rees scoring.
I always think you're going to say Emil Heskey. I don't know why.
He'd probably score as well, let's face it.
Probably could, yeah. I'll never forgive him for that goal at Wembley for Leicester in 97, 98. Or was it 96? I've just got my 90s mixed up.
96, 97, was it?
96, 97, yeah. I always get my 90s mixed up. Dana, what are you going to go for?
Yeah, I mean, we've spoken about Preston not scoring. I mean, it was 4-2, was it, between them and Blackpool? Was it yesterday or the day before? I can't remember. Yesterday. So they conceded 4, they scored 2. I think they'll probably revert back to their usual low scoring, low conceding self. I'm gonna say 1-0 Preston. I don't like us playing at Deepdale. I feel like it's always. I was going to say it's always quite tight. I feel like I erased that 4-1 game at the end of the season from my memory, but I don't feel like it's a place where Boro have much luck. So I'm going to say 1-0 Preston for me.
Okay, very optimistic from you both. And I'll round that off and say I think we might, if we have a new manager bounce, 2-0 Boro. Then we'll be happy. And then we can say a really nice podcast next weekend. But guys, thank you very much for joining me as always. And to the listeners and the viewers, thank you very much for watching and listening as well. But it's a tale of 2 Boros at the moment, but another tale is going to be written with a new manager coming in. But this has been the Boro Breakdown podcast, and that was like a Boro Matchday Chatter in a pod. Up the Boro Breakdown.